All right, just waiting to see if this is going live to see if the stream is being picked up, but I'm seeing it here on YouTube. Just got the notification, so we'll get right on to it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Chicago Audible podcast. I'm your host for today's show, Nicholas Moreano, here to give you another recap of what happened today at Bears training camp. Already day 7. Crazy to think it's already 7 days of training camp for the 2021 NFL season. So just to kind of preface what it was like today, I actually went as just a fan. Just my girlfriend was the only one that got tickets for everybody that submitted in my family. So went as a fan with her, my good friend Ben. So still watched practice, still took a lot of notes. So I'm about to share some of those observations with you. And in terms of attendance there at Hallis Hall, and these were the fields that are kind of, a little bit of hidden. There's a train that passes by for anybody who hasn't been there to Hallis Hall or those practice fields. There's a train that passes by. It's kind of surrounded by trees. There's a big, hill in the back of one of the fields there. But that's kind of the scene. And I thought today, maybe just me being a part of the fan base, I felt like there was more people there. A lot of people standing, obviously people filling up the bleachers, and just people obviously going crazy for a certain quarterback in Justin Fields. But not going to start with him today, and I'm just going to start off by talking about those quarterbacks. And I think we need to start with the starter, Andy Dalton, and what he was able to do in this practice. I thought the biggest thing that Andy Dalton showed in this training camp practice on Thursday morning was those anticipatory throws that Matt Nagy's been talking about as being one of Andy Dalton's strengths as a quarterback. I think there were a couple of plays throughout this training camp practice where you saw the anticipation that Andy Dalton had, whoever he was throwing it to. I know there was a really nice one, and I jotted it down right away. I think I may have even tweeted it out, where it was in team drill, and Andy Dalton connected with Allen Robinson. Something that he's been doing consistently throughout the training camp, just as these training camp practices, but it was on a back shoulder pass in the middle of the field where the timing does have to be perfect. You need to know exactly what Allen Robinson's thinking, when Andy Dalton's supposed to throw that, and just kind of also being influenced by how the defender's playing it. Andy Dalton was able to complete a nice pass to Allen Robinson there, and he also had a really, really great throw, and I had a perfect vantage point of this, to Marquis Goodwin. The offense was going into the end zone that I was kind of in front of, but Marquis Goodwin was running an in-breaking route, and Dalton just hits Marquis Goodwin in the back middle portion of the end zone right as he's coming out of his break. And he also found Goodwin on a play just right after that, back for back-to-back touchdowns. It looked like that was a coverage breakdown, but the one previous to that in-breaking route, you could just see that Andy Dalton, obviously being a veteran, Marquis Goodwin being a veteran, kind of relying on everything that they've learned up to this point in their careers to really be on time with a lot of these passes that require these wide receivers and these quarterbacks to be perfect with their timing. And those are just a couple of throws that Andy Dalton was able to make. There was also in the 7-on-7 period, Dalton found Allen Robinson again. It was a back right corner of the end zone for a touchdown. Kindle Vildor was in coverage. And then he followed that up in the 7-on-7 period with a nice strike over the middle to Cole Kmet. So you're seeing Andy Dalton just being very comfortable in this offense. And then towards the end of practice, the Bears like to simulate, game time situations. So they did a 2-minute kind of offensive period where the team is down 24-22. They have to drive the length of the field to potentially get into field goal range. And I think Dalton had arguably one of the best passes of the day. And I say that because of the situation they're in. They're in team period. It's the fourth quarter. They're down. And he just hits Demir Bird over the shoulder catch towards the left sideline. And that throw from Andy Dalton put the Bears in, a position to kick the game-winning field goal, which the Bears were able to accomplish. And on that 2-minute drive, I noticed that Andy Dalton was going a lot, or targeted Cole Kmet a lot of times on that drive. 3 of the 4 times he targeted Cole Kmet, they ended up in completion. So you're seeing obviously someone that is going to be a big part of this offense, hopefully in 2021, and Cole Kmet being targeted and being used there. So there was a lot of good that you saw from Andy Dalton. but I would not be doing you guys justice if I didn't only told you one side of it. There was also some mistakes that Andy Dalton was making. One, he completely missed Amir Byrd, who was streaking down the middle of the field on a deep ball. Dalton had to step up in the pocket, just feeling that pressure that was coming around him, and he just left the ball too far inside. Amir Byrd wasn't able to get to it. The ball was misplaced. It was a misconnect. Something that, as Bears fans, you're used to kind of seeing on that deep ball accuracy from the quarterbacks that have been here in the past. And then what I think is probably the biggest mistake is he had an interception in the red zone by DeAndre Houston Carson. Andy Dalton trying to go to his reliable target in Allen Robinson, targeting him in the back portion of the end zone. Houston Carson makes a good play, really good play, just extending his arm out there to intercept Andy Dalton. Interception in the red zone. So there were some missed throws, but I think you saw a lot of what Matt Nagy has called Andy Dalton, what his strengths are, those anticipatory throws. You saw that in today's practice. You also saw some throws that just didn't connect, and obviously an interception. And actually, each quarterback today was picked off. And I'll get to the other two quarterbacks right after a quick message from our sponsor, and you know who it is, Manscaped. Attention listeners from across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. It is like having a little astronaut to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and your ears. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your space balls will thank you. All right, you guys, going back into football talk now. We have to talk about the guy, the quarterback that everyone wants to hear about, Justin Fields. And I came away just with the throws that he was making. Each day I feel like Justin Fields has gotten better, but man, you saw some of those throws where that's why he's the 11th overall pick, and why is he not taken sooner? But actually before, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, I want to talk about some things that are maybe not as big, or maybe are just not as noticeable. But like for one play, for instance, the Bears were in team period, and they actually had a screen set up. And Jesse James, who has been Justin Fields' guy for sure early on in practice, he was supposed to get the ball on the screen pass, but he's covered up. There's a defender right in front of him, and instead of Justin Fields simply throwing the ball to be a completion, he throws it at Jesse James' feet. And I know maybe people listening are like, what? How is that a good play? Well, Justin Fields knew that play was dead to rights. There was nothing that was going to benefit from completing that pass behind the line of scrimmage and being behind the chains for the next play. So he does a smart thing, and something that he should do and replicate in games. He threw it at Jesse James' feet. And like I said, Mario Edwards, or the defender there, right there to tackle Jesse James. Had this been a real game, had he actually completed the pass, but Justin Fields just kind of taking those practice reps and replicating it, what it would be like in a game, and saying, hey, I'll take the next play at 2nd and 10 as opposed to 2nd and 13, 2nd and 14. Something that maybe will get brushed off. Maybe I'm making too much of it, but you're seeing some growth there. You're seeing the knowledge, seeing what Justin Fields is kind of thinking about. And then, okay, so if you guys were following me throughout the practice today, I had a couple of miscues in terms of just typing. So if people are like, how did Nick kind of mess up. Like, basically, I'm typing away, looking down at my phone, and then trying to look up at the same time at the next play that's about to happen. So I have this in my notes called the pimp fake. Yes, you heard that right. Pimp fake. And here's a tweet, just to preface this so you guys are like, for whoever's listening or didn't see the tweet, like, what the heck is Nick talking about? The tweet goes, Justin Fields sees the open window and finds Chris Lacey for a touchdown. Fields used a little pimp fake, waited for Caleb Johnson and Duke Shelley to get out of position, and threw an accurate pass to Lacey. Obviously, that's supposed to say pump fake. See, man, Twitter, just get the edit button so I don't look like an idiot. But I think for the most part, people, we're having fun with it and just put a whole bunch of, GIFs in the mentions there, in the comments. So, yes, but that was something that I really liked from Justin Fields. You go back and look at that play, and Justin Fields is looking left and trying to influence and dictate the defense for where he wants to go. But it's this subtle little pump fake that he has that really makes Caleb Johnson and Duke Shelley move out of position. And what does Justin Fields do right after that? He capitalizes. He makes them pay for moving out of position, where Chris Lacey ran a good route too to get separation from Duke Shelley, runs the post in the middle of the end zone, and just a strike. And you actually, when you look at it again, Justin Fields has a little, it's not coming over how he's throwing it with the motion. It's got a little sidearm action to it. But it all starts because Justin Fields was able to utilize that pump fake to get the defense to roll one way, and he capitalizes, hurts the defense with a touchdown by throwing an accurate pass over the middle of the end zone. So really like that from Justin Fields. Those are two little things, utilizing the pump fake and also just knowing the down and distance or the situation with that screen pass like I was talking about earlier. So really like that from Justin Fields. And there's so much more, you guys. I have plenty of notes on this as well. If you haven't seen, like, maybe you've seen Justin Fields highlights, just from Ohio State, but if you haven't seen him in person, like I haven't seen him in person until this training camp, the man has a cannon for an arm. And maybe that's no duh, Nick, haven't you seen the highlights? But I think there's just something to it when seeing it in person, and maybe seeing it as close as I was able to see it a couple of times already throughout training camp. It happened in 7-on-7 and team drills, but he's looking, this particular play I'm going to talk about happens in 7-on-7, where Justin Fields is looking right and nothing's open. There's no receivers, and remember, he's repping with second, even third string guys, and they're not creating any separation. But he waits for something to develop. And then Justin Fields, for looking right, immediately comes back to the center of the play, looking just right down the middle of the end zone. He does see one guy kind of create separation. Jester Way. Yeah, that's a name that you're not really going to hear about. But he made a hell of a play, because right in the middle of the end zone, just a rocket for a pass. Justin Fields is able to fit that ball right in front of the goalpost, essentially, and Jester Way is able to get himself a touchdown. But being patient and then just having the arm strength to rocket it right, just a pass to Jester Way, who, only created a little separation from his defender, able to get that touchdown. And he also hit Rodney Adams. If you haven't seen the video that went viral from Soldier Field, number 13, he was also able to hit Rodney Adams for a touchdown, and Desmond Trufant was in coverage. So there are times where Justin Fields, he might not be repping with the first team offense, but he will go against some defenders from, the first team that just throughout the practices. And actually, I did note in my notes that I was taking throughout practice that Justin Fields got reps with the first team offensive line, but I'll go into detail who was actually playing in today's practice. But he didn't go first team with the first team offense. It just hasn't happened yet. It's all been Andy Dalton, and I know how people kind of feel about that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if that changes at all throughout training camp. And sorry, I didn't even mention this. The Bears were not in pads today. I really thought they would be, just coming off the Soldier Field practice, which they were in, but they were not in pads. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of knows that. And then I have little notes here about Justin Fields, just some of the arm angles that he's able to throw from. I know I mentioned earlier from the touchdown to Chris Lacey, just having a little sidearm action. You saw that again, and it was just to a screen pass to Khalil Herbert. And honestly, the play probably wouldn't have gone for many yards, but Justin Fields is off his back foot, throwing that sidearm pass, just seeing that, he's capable of doing that easily. He's super athletic and can deliver an accurate pass despite the platform or the arm angle that he's throwing from. He's capable of that. And then you saw the deep ball, you guys. I know a lot of people have seen that from his Ohio State tape, but man, it doesn't even matter who the wide receiver is, too. He just puts the ball in a spot where the wide receiver can get it, and it's not in jeopardy of the defender making a play or getting an interception on it. He hit John Vay Johnson down the right sideline in 7-on-7, just a beautiful pass. And then, I also was like, no, okay, there's one deep ball down the right side. And then he followed that up with a really, really nice ball to Riley Ridley, also down that right sideline. So just making plays however he can. And then this is something that Justin Fields will do. It's not going to really happen for Andy Dalton, and definitely not going to happen for Nick Foles, but the Bears were in that team situational period. They were about 5 yards away from the end zone, and Justin Fields gets a snap, and parting like the Red Sea, the middle of the defense is open. Justin Fields right up the middle for a touchdown. 5-yard touchdown, untouched, and it's easy. Like, he recognized that so quickly, too. It's like, okay, yes, maybe the wide receivers could have been open, but he saw the rushing lane there, knew he wasn't going to take a hit, regardless if this was just practice or a game, and takes advantage of it. Touchdown, Bears. And I think we'll be seeing, hopefully, a lot of that come the regular season and, for years to come there. All right, and look, there was a lot of good from Justin Fields today. So much good in terms of throws, decision-making, what he's thinking, what he's doing on the field. Plenty of great plays. But there's also, just like Andy Dalton, some things that need to be worked on. He was intercepted by Desmond Trufant in the end zone. It was a red zone interception. And to me, because there was nothing initially open for Justin Fields, and it looked like he was trying to throw the ball away, and he just didn't get enough on it. And I don't know. I think if this is at Soldier Field, he really just launches that ball and doesn't even care because you go into the end zone. But like I was saying earlier in the podcast, where the Bears are practicing, they're kind of in a foresty area. So if you launch a football out of bounds, that's going in the trees, that's going whatever's back there. And there were fans just kind of along the ropes there. And look, I'm not saying that, that's an excuse to not throw the ball away. But I'm thinking if that's at Soldier Field, Justin Fields is just going to launch it and, live to play another down like I was talking about earlier. But he did get intercepted by Desmond Trufant. And then there was a couple plays where Justin Fields was rolling left and he was trying to target and, connect with Damiere Byrd, but Xavier Crawford, jumps the route and nearly has an interception right there at the goal line, just right in front of that left pylon. And, Justin Fields got lucky there. And I noted this. I'm like, did this just happen? Justin Fields just lost the ball as he was trying to throw. And, yeah, there was defenders around, but they weren't close enough to knock it out. And, the defenders are told not to touch the quarterback. But, yeah, Justin Fields just lost the ball. And, I think it happens to everybody. So that was really it, though, in terms of the bad. And, yes, were there some missed throws and 7-on-7 team throws? Yes, there were. But I think those are the bigger mistakes that I saw. But like I said, you heard me talking about all the positives, a lot more positives than negatives from today's practice. And really, there were just some really impressive throws from all the quarterbacks, including Nick Foles, who I didn't really mention, but Andy Dalton using those anticipatory throws, Justin Fields showing that arm strength, and again, that intelligence on some of these plays to just capitalize on what the defense is giving him. And then Nick Foles just being a veteran, taking advantage of third stringers and throwing deep passes to those guys. So you saw a lot of everything happening there. And if I had to say, like, who had the better day, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, it's a tough one. It really is. Like, I put so much weight on the 2-minute drill that Andy Dalton was able to run in that throw to Damiere Byrd. But then if you add up all the throws from Justin Fields today, it's a tough one. It's like 50-50 for me. But I think I'll give the slight edge to Justin Fields there for for you guys. And maybe people feel differently, but I thought, both quarterbacks had some really good throws. They were each intercepted in the end zone. So, yeah, take that for what it is. And just a quick update on the O-line if anyone's wondering, hey, who was actually playing today? So, the first string offensive line for today's practice, this is the 5th of August. Larry Borum, left tackle. Cody Whitehair, left guard. Sam Mustafer, center. Right guard, Alex Bars, and right tackle, Lachavious Simmons. So, yeah, you hear those names, and, maybe I know a lot of people like Alex Bars and are, high on Larry Borum, but that's not who you want for your starting offensive line if week 1 was just around the corner, obviously. So the Bears need to get healthy in that aspect so they can, run their offense effectively. And the Miami Dolphins will be here next week. So those are going to be really telling practices of where this team is at and what they need to do or who they need to go get to upgrade this offensive line, especially at that left tackle position, just in case Tevin Jenkins is not ready to go. So that's who the Bears are running out there for, the offensive line for the first team offense. Yeah, I see the comment. Well, that's not the names we were expecting. I don't think anyone was. I know, James Daniels got hurt, a thigh injury, I believe, from the practice at Soldier Field. Tevin Jenkins still injured. Jermaine Ifedi still injured. So they're pretty banged up along that line, and we'll have to see how or what the Bears do or who the Bears bring in to potentially, just add some bodies really at this point. Because, yeah, I know that, Matt Nagy was talking about Larry Borum and seeing what he can do moving from right tackle in college to left tackle. Man, you'd rather not have to go that route if you didn't have to. But hopefully guys get healthy and they're ready for the regular season. Could happen, could not. All right, the defense is out there too. I know I've been kind of neglecting them and kind of going at the bottom here. But I want to start off with a newcomer here who's brand new to this team, Alec Ogletree. And guys, it was really early on in practice where you just knew that he was there. He made his presence felt. He had a pick 6 against Nick Foles in team drills. And it was weird. The Bears actually went to team drills earlier on in this practice than they have in the previous one. So they switched it up a little bit. But like I said, early on in practice, Ogletree wasn't even on the roster that I got today. I was looking for number 44, and technically on the bottom there it's Jake Butt who retired, but 44 was Alec Ogletree, and then he just jumped the route and was able to get in front of Nick Foles and take it back to the house. And the turnover turnover basket came out a couple times. Like I mentioned, the guys that had interceptions, but that happened early on, and he was also in great position in the end zone covering Jesper Horsted, who one of the quarterbacks was targeting, but just kind of limited the throwing window. Alec Ogletree is there. First practice, making his presence felt. So that's a good sign, and maybe not the best sign for some backup linebackers that are looking to get some playing time because already making some splash plays here. And then, like I mentioned, the interceptions that happened in practice, Desmond Trufant, DeAndre Houston-Carson, Alec Ogletree, all getting to use that turnover basket and doing some dunks there. What they have, it's like a little basketball hoop. And what the guys will do, they'll practice their dunks and stuff. I'm pretty sure, Trufant? Or no, Ogletree, I think, missed his dunk, which is kind of funny. DeAndre Houston-Carson just did a finger roll. And then I didn't see Desmond Trufant's celebration there. So, oh well. But another guy that was standing out, and you heard him, was Travis Gibson. He was living in the backfield today, and look, when you're playing the offensive line that I mentioned, that's the first string. There's also a second string that Travis Gibson will get to go against at times, and the first string, the starting O-line that played today would mostly be backups. But you heard Travis Gibson, it almost sounded like an evil laugh. And, we're a good ways away, but you just hear, not like the Joker, but something along those lines where it's just evil. Like he knew had this been a game, Travis Gibson would have lit some people up. There was a couple, like I said, he was living in the backfield, but forgot which running back it was. I think it may have been Khalil Herbert, but yeah, Travis Gibson, Khalil Herbert, that wouldn't have been good. Then I have just some good individual reps from some of the secondary players in 7-on-7. Thomas Graham Jr. had really, really good, solid, sticky coverage on John Vay Johnson, who I mentioned earlier, caught a touchdown on a vertical route. So just seeing that he's able to stay with some of those guys. And also Jordan Lucas, a guy that opted out last season, had really nice coverage on Jesse James. Like a guy that Justin Fields has just targeted throughout every single training camp practice. That's a connection that, hey, if it happens throughout the regular season, you know exactly where this started. It like I feel like almost every other play, Justin Fields, it's kind of a safety blanket. Jesse James, who has been a nice little addition to that tight end room. Actually, you know what? I don't know how I missed all this in the offense, and I have to go back. We're going back. Sorry, guys, because these were really interesting plays that happened in this training camp practice. That's really all I have from the defense. I wish they were in pads just to see a little bit more from them in terms of what they're capable of doing. But, without pads, like, you can't get to the quarterback. Obviously, you can't do that with pads either. You really can't hit the running backs. Everybody needs to stay up, no falling on the ground. But I promise there'll be more defensive takeaways, and hopefully, the next practice, whenever they get into pads, I think that'll be a better indication of what they can do. But going really quickly back up to the offense, and before I wrap things up, Darnell Mooney, if you didn't see my tweet, he absolutely just destroyed Deion Bush it was an out-breaking route in the end zone where Darnell, it's just nasty. Like, Deion Bush fell to the ground, and I said he broke his ankles. He did. Obviously, he didn't really break his ankles for anybody who's concerned. I saw some people like, oh no, another injury. No, he just ran a nasty, nasty route. And as someone who's a former wide receiver, I love watching that kind of stuff. Love watching just the technician that Darnell Mooney is, and just him executing it to perfection. Deion Bush fell, saw the whole route kind of take place, and Darnell Mooney, Deion Bush went one way, Darnell Mooney went the other, wide open touchdown. Andy Dalton delivered the pass, and if you have wide receivers running routes like that, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You can obviously hit a wide open target most of the times. And then there was Jimmy Graham, and we've seen a couple plays like this, even going back to last season, where they'll isolate Graham just one-on-one with a DB. It was one-on-one versus Jalen Johnson, and Jimmy Graham used that basketball background, boxed out Jalen Johnson, and caught a touchdown. And then he spiked the ball, like how Jimmy Graham does, and Jordan Lucas ended up getting the ball and playfully kind of threw it back to Jimmy Graham, who then was like, all right, I'm just going to punt this thing. And he punted the football. I don't even know where it ended up, but that's just the energy that Jimmy Graham brings. And I think, still, I know a lot of people are saying, why is he even on the team? I get it, but it's hopefully for plays like that, touchdown plays, is why he's on this team, and that's what he said in his presser today. I know he had a lot of comments on the COVID-19 protocols and things like that, but if he could still score touchdowns, that's what he's definitely meant to add to this team. But that was really it, you guys. A lot of good throws from the quarterbacks, a lot of receivers making plays. Like I said, newcomers in defense kind of showing up and, getting some interceptions today. So I think you saw a little bit of everything. Now, obviously, we'll see what unit kind of carries over that momentum from today. But I would think, like, offense, won this day. And I think the defense has kind of been, winning consistently throughout training camp. But I think each quarterback made enough plays to give them the win for today. We'll see how it plays out for tomorrow's practice, but that's going to do it for me. Tomorrow I will be back as a credentialed media member. So like I said, I took the day off, but didn't take the day off. I was still tweeting and doing stuff throughout training camp, but I'll be back tomorrow as a credentialed media member, covering the practice before I go to the Cubs-Sox game at Wrigley Field. And actually, that'll be my first time going to Wrigley Field, which is crazy. So obviously I'll be rooting for the Sox, being a Sox fan, and we'll see what happens in terms of like a recap for tomorrow. Maybe it might just be a Twitter thread, just because I won't have enough time to go back home and do this and get it out to you guys. But thank you everybody for tuning in, for following me throughout the training camp practice today and just on Twitter and things like that. I really appreciate it. If you're not, you can follow me at Nicholas Moreano on Twitter. Make sure you're also following the Chicago Audible at the Chicago Audible. Really appreciate you guys. It's been awesome just being at these training camp practices and being a part of the media and just seeing how this Bears team is progressing, what they're looking to improve upon, and just seeing where they honestly can go from here. But like I said, I really appreciate all of you in the live chat who listen, who download this. You know, this is awesome. So thank you guys so much. But until next time, bear down, Chicago. And this is where I sit and just stay here because the stream will sometimes not pick that last part up. And it'll sound weird. For the video, all this will stay. For the audio, I'm going to cut that out after bear down, Chicago. So, all right, you guys. I'll catch you later. See ya.